Have you ever been in an emotionally overwhelming situation where you reacted without thinking, only to regret it later? Maybe you felt guilt, shame, or frustration because your reaction only made things worse. What if I told you there is a way to stop the spiral of reaction and take control of your response? Today, we are diving into a game-changing truth. Circumstances don't matter. Your state of being does. For years, I reacted to life without awareness, letting circumstances dictate my emotions and decisions. I often found myself trying to control the outcome, anticipating how things would unfold, planning every step to make sure I felt right. But what I didn't realize was that this constant need to control only created more anxiety and uncertainty. Over the past 2 years, I've learned something that transformed how I deal with challenges. Circumstances don't define us. How we respond to them does. In this video, I will share how I've applied this powerful perspective in my own life, even during recent emotionally challenging days. You will learn why it's important to shift from reaction to response. And I will give you 3 practical tools to help you stay calm and clear, even in the toughest situation. By the end of this video, you will start living and navigating circumstances with much more awareness and understanding. You will take control of the narrative, stopping the negative spiral of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that constantly shows up when we let circumstances take the driver's seat. What does circumstances don't matter, your state of being does mean? Think about the moments when life throws something your way, whether it's an argument, a difficult conversation, or something unexpected, and how often your first instinct is to react. What if I told you that the real shift begins when you realize that circumstances don't matter, your state of being does? This doesn't mean ignoring reality. It's about understanding that the way you interpret what happens determines your experience of it. Let's break it down. Every circumstance in your life starts as neutral. It's neither good nor bad until you assign meaning to it through your thoughts, emotions, and the story you tell yourself. Your perception shapes how you experience it, and that perception is guided by your state of being in that moment. Take a breakup, for example. On the surface, it's just the end of a relationship. But if you interpret it as a personal failure, a sign that you are unworthy of love, then that belief becomes your truth. You might carry that weight into future relationships, sabotaging them out of fear of repeating the same pain, even though the breakup had nothing to do with your worth. It might have simply been about incompatibility, timing, or factors beyond your control. In moments like these, when we react to circumstances, we are often unconsciously guided by past wounds, by the fears and insecurities we've carried. We project meaning onto the situation based on what we've experienced before. The challenge is, those past experiences aren't always an accurate reflection of the present moment. This is where responding comes in. Responding isn't about ignoring the emotions or the situation. It's about being aware that while a situation might remind you of the past, it's not the same as the past. You are not the same person, and because of that, you have the power to choose how you respond. Let's consider an example. Imagine you are driving and someone cuts you off in traffic. Your initial reaction might be anger, frustration boiling up, maybe even honking your horn or muttering something under your breath. The whole situation could send you spiraling, affecting your mood for hours. But what if instead you choose to respond? You take a breath, give yourself a moment, and acknowledge that the other driver might be in a rush or distracted. It's not about excusing their behavior. It's about choosing not to let it control your emotions. You can simply let it go, preserving your peace. In that moment, your state of being doesn't react from a place of anger or stress. It responds with clarity and calm. This applies to every situation. Circumstances themselves are neutral. They simply are what they are. What gives them meaning is our perception of them, shaped by the lens through which we view the world. Here is a powerful example you've likely experienced. Think about someone you know who others do not quite get. Maybe they are labeled as rude or unkind by some. But when you interact with them, you see a different side. You might find them funny, warm, or thoughtful. On the flip side, consider someone who doesn't trust or appreciate you. Maybe they call you boring or strange, yet others around you might see you as inspiring and engaging. What is the truth? It's the same behavior, but interpreted differently depending on who's looking. This is where the magic happens. Your perception often defines the situation. The same circumstances can be seen through a million different lenses, each one shaped by your emotional state and the story you've attached to those moments. Even your own actions can shift based on how you feel. There are days when you might act out of kindness, generosity, or service. But on another day, when you are stressed or overwhelmed, you might come off as impatient or distant. Same person, different circumstances, different perception. Now, here is the bigger question. Does the circumstance define your state of being, or does your state of being define the circumstance? It's a classic chicken and egg dilemma. But here is the liberating truth. It doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing that you always have a choice. You can either let the situation dictate how you feel, or you can respond from a place of awareness, shaping the situation with your perspective. Why responding feels better? I will be honest with you. I've spent far more time reacting to life than responding. And while reacting feels like an automatic, instinctive response, it is responding that truly empowers us. When I choose to respond, I feel more in control. I act with clarity and awareness. I avoid spirals of guilt, shame, or regret. By owning my response, I no longer let circumstances be the trigger for stress or negativity. Instead, I transform them into opportunities for growth, learning, and self-awareness. It is this shift from reacting to responding that changes everything. The power isn't in the situation, it's in how you choose to show up to it. Now let's dive into a powerful distinction that can help you navigate life's challenges, understanding the difference between gut instinct and fear-based reactions. It's essential to recognize that they lead us in opposite directions. Gut instinct is like your internal compass. It is that quiet, calm voice that guides you towards what feels right in the moment, even if it goes against conventional wisdom or external pressure. It doesn't rush. It's grounded, clear, and rooted in your deeper truth. Fear-based reactions, however, are driven by panic. They come from a place of urgency, a desire to control outcomes, and an overwhelming need to avoid discomfort or regret. Fear clouds your judgment. It feels heavy, rushed, and disconnected from your authentic self. I know it can be easy to confuse the two, especially when you are under pressure. Imagine you are facing a big decision. Maybe it's about a relationship, your career, or a personal goal, and the clock is ticking. You might feel that rush to act immediately, that fear telling you to do something, anything, to avoid the pain of what might happen. That is fear talking. On the other hand, gut instinct doesn't push. It quietly guides you. It might say, take a breath, wait. It's okay to pause and let this unfold. Even if others are pressuring you, even if the world seems to demand an immediate decision, your inner compass knows that waiting and responding from a place of clarity is often the best course of action. Why letting go of control creates freedom? Now let's talk about control. It is something that often feels like the answer when life gets uncertain or overwhelming. Fear will try to convince you that control is the key. It tells you that if you act now, if you make a decision immediately, you can prevent disaster. It creates that false sense of urgency, leading you to believe that the outcome is entirely in your hands. But here's the truth. Life unfolds in its own timing. No matter how much you push, resist, or worry, you can't force things to happen the way you want them to. When you try to control every detail, you actually close yourself off to the natural flow of life. Instead, when you let go of the need to control, you open up space for trust. Your trust that everything is unfolding as it should, even if it's not the way you expect. That you are capable of responding with clarity when the time comes. That what is truly aligned for you will reveal itself, even if it doesn't match others' timelines or expectations. Let's put this into perspective with a real-life example. Imagine you are in a situation where everyone around you insists that their way is the only right way. They might be fooled by their own fears, projecting their worries onto you. It is tempting to react, to go along with their advice or demands just to make them happy or to ease your own discomfort. But responding instead of reacting requires a shift. It means stepping back and asking yourself, what feels true to me? Is the action being demanded in line with my values and intuition, or am I being swayed by fear or pressure? Am I acknowledging the fear I feel without letting it dictate my choices? Fear of judgment, fear of regret, fear of the unknown, they are all normal. But they aren't the best guides. Recognizing them is one thing, allowing them to rule your actions is another. Can I trust the process? Life doesn't always operate in a way we understand, but it does unfold with purpose. Trusting the flow of life frees you from the impossible task of controlling everything. When you choose alignment over fear, you reclaim your power. Instead of being swept up in external pressures or consumed by internal fear, you respond from a grounded place of awareness. This approach keeps you clear-headed and intentional, acting from a space of inner knowing, reduces unnecessary guilt or regret because your actions are rooted in authenticity, allows you to navigate life's challenges without compromising your true self. It's important to remember, you might not always control what happens around you, but you always have the control over how you show up. By embracing this perspective, you turn every challenge into an opportunity to strengthen your connection with yourself. You no longer act out of fear or pressure, you act from a place of trust, clarity, and alignment. Now that we've explored how emotional awareness can shift your reactions, it's time to dive into some practical tools that can help you go from a place of overwhelm to a space of clarity. These tools aren't about eliminating emotions, they are about learning how to navigate them consciously. Let's look at these 3 key strategies that will help you move from reacting to responding, allowing you to reclaim control over your emotional landscape and make empowered decisions. Tool number 1, clear the fog. Shift to the observer mode. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by emotions, feeling like you are drowning in a thick fog? Maybe something triggered a strong reaction, and suddenly your mind is clouded. You can't think clearly, and everything seems like a blur. No matter how hard you try, it feels like you are grasping at air, unable to find your footing. It's frustrating, isn't it? You can feel the pressure to fix things right away, but deep down, you know that reacting in this state wouldn't bring clarity or the best solution. I've been there. I've had those moments where emotions flood in so fast that all I can think about is what might go wrong. What if I don't make the right choice? What if people think I'm selfish or irresponsible? The fear of making a mistake becomes so loud. The more I try to fight it, the more lost I feel. But here is the key. The solution isn't in the heat of the moment. You cannot solve the problem when you are in the middle of the storm. You need to step back, let the fog settle, and create some space. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It's about breathing, stepping outside the emotional chaos, and seeing things more clearly. Like a friend helping you through a tough decision. Imagine this, a close friend of yours is going through a tough time. They come to you for advice, and you can see their judgment is clouded by emotions. What would you do? You wouldn't rush in with solutions. You would pause, listen, and guide them through gentle questions to help them find clarity. What if you treated yourself the same way? I started practicing this whenever I felt overwhelmed, treating my emotions like a friend's. Instead of spiraling into what-ifs, I step back and ask myself, what is really going on here? What am I afraid of? It's as if I'm talking to that friend, guiding them through their feelings. Questions like, what is coming up for me right now? Is it a fear of judgment, failure, or loss of control? And then I ask, what is the worst case scenario here? And the best? How would I feel if either of those things happened? You would be surprised how much clarity you can gain just by asking yourself these simple questions. Suddenly, instead of feeling overwhelmed, you are observing the situation from a distance. When you do that, the fog starts to lift. You begin to see things more clearly. Let me share an example of how this worked for me. A while ago, I was under intense pressure to make a big decision, one that didn't feel right for me. Everyone around me was urging me to act immediately, but I knew deep down that this wasn't aligned with who I wanted to be. The weight of others' opinions made me feel like I had no time to think. But instead of reacting impulsively, I paused. I shifted into observer mode. I imagined giving advice to a close friend in my shoes, asking myself the same questions I would ask them. What is really going on here? What am I afraid of? I realized the fear driving my decision wasn't from clarity, it was from the anxiety of others' judgments and the unknown. With that realization, I took a step back. I wasn't reacting out of fear anymore. I was responding with understanding. I could trust that I didn't need to control everything, and I made a decision that was right for me, not based on pressure. So, if you are feeling stuck in the fog of emotions, try this. Pause for a moment. Imagine this situation belongs to someone you care deeply about. Shift into observer mode. Ask yourself the questions that will help you understand your feelings, free from judgment, and from there, make your decision, grounded in clarity and self-compassion. Once the fog lifts, you will find yourself in a clearer, more focused space. And just like that, you will see the path forward with newfound clarity. But the journey doesn't end there. The next step is to recognize and honor the emotions that have risen up, not as obstacles, but as guides. So let's dive into validating your emotion. Number 2, validate your thoughts and emotions. Now that you've cleared the fog and shifted into observer mode, the next step is a powerful one. Validating your thoughts and emotions. This is where the real magic happens. Emotions can feel overwhelming, even scary, but they are not here to punish us. They are signals trying to communicate something important. Think about it like this. If you keep ignoring or suppressing the signals in your car, eventually the engine will break down, right? Emotions work the same way. When we push them away, ignore them, or try to fix them too quickly, they get louder, more persistent. But when we validate them, when we acknowledge and listen to what they are trying to teach us, that's when the breakthrough happens. It can feel uncomfortable to sit with emotions that seem too heavy, especially those that make us feel vulnerable. I've been there feeling the tightness of guilt, anxiety, or even anger without knowing exactly why. But here is the thing. Emotions are not the enemy. They are our inner compass helping us see what is happening inside. When I started practicing emotional validation, it was a game changer. I would catch myself in the middle of feeling overwhelmed, maybe even panicked, and I would pause, just like I did in the first tour. And I would ask myself, what am I feeling right now? And usually it was fear, guilt, or anxiety. But instead of judging myself for feeling this way, I began to ask, why is this coming up? What belief or fear is tied to this emotion? For instance, during the difficult time with my family, when there was pressure to make the quick decision about my dad's health, I noticed something powerful happening inside me. As I felt the urge to act quickly, flying home to do the right thing according to everyone's expectations, I felt the sharp sting of fear and guilt. It was almost like a heavy weight on my chest. But instead of pushing those feelings away, I paused and validated them. Okay, what am I feeling right now? It's fear and guilt. Why is this coming up? I realized that the fear wasn't about my daddy's health. It was the fear of not being there in time. The guilt stemmed from the belief that if I didn't drop everything and go, I might regret it later. It was a deep fear of judgment, of others thinking I wasn't caring enough. What I didn't realize before was that these emotions weren't just random reactions. They were connected to an old story I had been carrying. The story that if I wasn't always available for others, I was selfish. Once I saw that, everything shifted. The guilt and fear didn't have as much power over me anymore. By validating my emotions, I stopped fighting myself. I wasn't resisting my feelings. I was simply acknowledging them, understanding their purpose. The moment I did that, I created space. I could see what was real and what was just my mind running wild with old programming. It is easy to confuse fear-based reactions with our instincts, but when we pause to validate our emotions, we separate the two. We begin to understand what is happening beneath the surface, and that clarity helps us respond in a way that is aligned with our true instincts, not fear or pressure. So here is what I want you to remember. When emotions rise up, whether it's fear, anger, guilt, or something else, take a step back and validate them. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why is this coming up? Acknowledge that these feelings don't define you. They are simply signals pointing to deeper beliefs or fears. And when you do that, you start to understand what is really driving your reaction. This practice isn't just about feeling the emotions. It's about understanding them. And once you understand them, you will make decisions from a place of clarity and awareness, not fear or confusion. I would love to know, have you ever had a moment when you felt overwhelmed by emotions but paused to validate them? How did it change your perspective? Share your experiences with me in the comments. Let's dive into this together. Tool number 3, reframe and let go of control. Now that you validated your emotions and gained clarity, it's time for the next step. Reframe and let go of control. By now, the fog should be lifting. You are no longer overwhelmed by your emotions and you've created some distance from your initial reactions. This is where the real shift begins. Instead of reacting from fear or anxiety, you are now in a place where you can consciously choose how to respond to the situation. You are no longer trapped in old patterns. You are starting to see things from a fresh perspective. And let me tell you, this is the most empowering part of the process. The moment I understood this, everything changed for me. Here's the powerful truth I remind myself of. Circumstances don't matter. What matters is how I respond. It's easy to get caught up in the belief that if we can just control the situation or how others react, everything will be okay. But here is the truth. We can't control the future, other people's opinions, or how things unfold. What we can control is our mindset, our choices, and how we navigate the challenge at hand. This is where the real power lies. For me, this is where journaling becomes an essential tool. Writing everything down helps me process what I'm feeling, what is still lingering from the earlier steps, what I want out of the situation, and most importantly, what can I let go of? Letting go of control isn't always easy. It can feel like giving up, like surrendering to something we cannot influence. But here is what I've realized. Surrendering to what we cannot control is actually a form of strength, not weakness. I start by asking myself, what am I holding on to that I cannot control? For example, the future. What might happen next? Other people's opinions, what they will think of my choices, their reactions, whether they will understand or accept what I decide, and even the outcome itself. I remind myself I cannot control any of this. You know what? It is such a relief when you finally let go. The weight starts to lift. Then comes the decision-making part. I choose what feels right for me, trusting that no matter what happens, I will face it with courage. I will learn from it, grow from it, and accept whatever outcome arises. By the time I reach this point, the heaviness is gone. It's not about ignoring the challenge. It's about meeting it with clarity and faith. It's about knowing I've done everything I could in that moment, and that's enough. When I reached this point during the difficult decision with my family, I had a moment of deep peace. Sure, I didn't have control over what others thought or how the situation would unfold, but I knew I had taken the time to respond thoughtfully, aligned with my values. I chose not to rush into something out of fear or pressure. Instead, I took control of how I approached the situation, and that felt empowering. This is what reframing and letting go of control can do for you. It's about accepting that life is full of uncertainties, and you don't have to know everything in advance. The only thing you can truly control is how you show up, how you respond, and how you choose to navigate through it all. So ask yourself, what can I let go of today? What is weighing on you that you don't need to carry anymore? What can you trust will unfold as it's meant to while you focus on your response instead? I would love to hear how you've practiced letting go of control in your life. What's helped you reframe a challenging situation and approach it with a clearer mindset? Let me know please in the comments below. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. These tools are about remembering that you always have a choice. You can react out of fear or you can choose to respond with awareness. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. Clarity will come naturally and you will move from chaos to alignment. Anxiety wouldn't grab you first. You will choose your response from a place of strength. It's like strengthening a new muscle. At first you stumble, but with practice you grow stronger and more confident. It's not about being right, it's about being true to yourself. You are doing your best with what you have, and so is everyone else. Let others work their path and you walk yours. Release the pressure to control everything. Focus on what you can control, how you respond. So ask yourself, what can I let go of today? Every moment is a chance to choose again. Your emotions are a powerful guide in this journey, and I have the perfect video showing how negative emotions guide you to growth. I break down how our emotions can actually lead us to the answers we are looking for. I will link it in the description and on the end screen. I would love to hear how practicing awareness has shifted your perspective. Drop a comment below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Much love.